Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Good. I don't know. Everybody's gotten our memo. We moved industry update to 11 a.m. yet.
Yeah, I think everyone's
So
still trying to catch on to that.
it is good thing we record it. It is 30 minutes, Amy. Um, let's rock and roll. How you feeling?
Good, good, energized.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
weather got a little cool. But I mean, I think we have to grieve summer, but we get excited for fall, so life's good. But what's that mean for
Absolutely.
the real estate market? Is the
Well,
market
I mean,
cool off, or what's it do?
I mean, it the last quarter of the year is usually a little bit slower, but there's usually an uptick in December as people try to finish and close things out before the end of the year. Particularly investors and builders, they all want to try to close as much on the books this year as possible, and people want to avoid having to wait a year for homestead exemption. So those folks want to buy at the end of the year, and sellers are motivated because no sellers want to be on the market during the holidays.
There you go. All right. Well, let's start with this home sales real quick. So
Yeah.
if you were at our industry update last week, we talked a little bit about this, but September was down about 22%. I think you're going to read in an article here in a little bit that it's saying the country's down like 30 to 60% or whatever, which is just not the case where we live, right? Are we shocked by this? No, I think the world of where the economics are in the world right now, I actually think we're winning in spite of, if that makes sense. Meaning,
Yeah.
we're not losing market share as bad as the rest of the country, and that's a win, right?
Right.
All that to say, if I click all these others, Mark, one of the things I like doing on here is looking at this line graph, and actually, let me take these off for a second. That's the bell curve we're experiencing right now. And I just laugh when I think about May being the peak month, because it's just ironically never the peak month.
Yeah,
But
it's
whatever.
usually June or July.
Yeah. So, but the question is really, we're trying to predict where we're going, right? So, we laughed at the industry update and we said, pick your line, right? Do you think it's going to be the blue line, the green line, the yellow line, or the pink line? And I think we both agree it's going to look more like the blue line.
Yeah, I think it's going to track right along with that blue line.
Yeah. So what does that mean? It just means we're going to hold probably about 20% off of what last year was. And all that to say, it doesn't dictate your reality. It just says that's what the market's doing. You dictate your own reality.
Absolutely.
There you go.
And there's opportunity in the end of the year. We just talked about, the sellers that want to sell before the end of the year, buyers that want to buy before the end of the year. There's motivation to do so. So take advantage of it.
Yeah. All right. Let me get the grader. Here's the other thing. Right now, if you looked at prices, it's going to say that prices went down from August to September. So August was 425, we're 414 if my eyes don't fail me. But if you go back to September 2022, we were at 400, 406. I probably should get some glasses. So 406 to 414, that says prices are up. But if you're looking from last month to now, it's saying prices are down. But guess what? That always happens at the
That's just normal business. Every month, it's not going to be the same average price every month.
Yeah. So one of the things we tackled in the industry update was everybody's trying to predict where prices are going. And our predictions right now say prices are going up. And I don't think they're going up like they went up during the pandemic, but we're on an upward trajectory. And I think that's really important to point out, because you're going to read articles and say, oh, prices went backwards. Well, yeah, they always go backwards the second half of the year compared to the peak of the summer. But year over year, we're up. and I will take that all day long.
Yeah, I mean, I think it all just goes back to inventory too. Like, just having a severe lack of inventory creates, pent up demand because there's more demand relative to the supply. So it keeps prices up.
Absolutely. So let's jump over here to Fulton County. Um, loading.
Hmm.
I spend half my day waiting on something to load, Mark.
Right? It's our
All
world
right.
now.
That's the world. All right. If we're looking at our four big things in Fulton County, we got 776 active inventory, 26 active under contract, 233 pending, and 257 closed. What are the lines doing? Inventory is slowly building.
Mhm.
Closings are slowly tapering off, which is normal this time of year. Pendings are slowly tapering off, which is normal this time of year. So
Mhm.
we're really just starting to experience that seasonality effect.
Right.
And I think that's pretty normal, to be honest with
Mhm.
you.
It definitely is.
Yeah. If I jump down to DeKalb County and we spend our hour waiting, not really. All right. Get all these other ones off here. So right now we're looking at 420 active, which is a slow increase up. Active under contract is at 75, which you can see is a little bit tapered down. Pendings are 144, which is tapered down, and closings are 147, which is tapered down, which is just the seasonality slowdown that you always experience in the month of October.
Right.
And just to hit the third big county, Cobb County, which I'm not going to cover Gwinnett today, but did you see, Mark, that they're predicting Gwinnett will overtake Fulton County being the largest county by 2050?
Yeah, it's a big county, but it's also getting denser there. So yeah.
Yeah. All right, Cobb County 435 active, slight increase. Active under contract 83, pending 145. Both of them seasonality. Closings 165. I mean, what's the story here, guys? The story is just that we're in the October seasonality where things are starting to slow down a little bit. We're expecting the market to be 20% behind what it was last year. And our leadership message in that is that doesn't have to be your reality. You can get your unfair share, take territory, or whatever you want to call it, because you are the most nimble entity in the real estate industry that can go create success however you want it.
Yeah. But I think it
Anything
starts
you
with
would add,
mindset,
Mark?
right? It starts with your mindset having the thought that you can have a positive effect on your own business by doing different activities. And that's where it starts.
Absolutely. Tell me more.
I mean, I think for about a year and a half now, we've been talking to agents, and I think from every level, from Gary Keller down to you, down to my level, we've been talking to agents about making changes in their behavior, because if the market as a whole is down 20 to 30%, so there are 20 to 30% fewer homes being sold, then there's a smaller pool of opportunity, but that doesn't mean your opportunity has to be small. You just have to change your behavior and get into different activities to generate more business so you can take a bigger share of what's available.
There you go.
And I think now agents are starting to see that.
Absolutely. All right. We hadn't talked about AI in a while, Mark.
Mm.
And I wanted to show you guys something real quick. AI is there, but it's only as good as the question you ask it. So, for instance, if I said, what is the optimal way to advertise new construction in Atlanta as a realtor on Facebook? Pretty simple, right?
Mhm.
It's an ask. I've got writer's block. I want to advertise and create some business through Facebook. And I click this, and AI is going to go to town, and it's going to kick back some instructions, right?
Mhm.
It's really thinking here. Step-by-step guide. Define your target audience. Create high-value visual content. Craft a compelling ad copy. Let's see. Choose the right ad format. Use Facebook Ad Manager. Geo-targeting. Wow, it looks like a class on how to do it.
Right.
Let's say I stop it and I go, what is a compelling ad copy to use? So it's building on the previous question.
Right.
Literally, this should take me and write the ad for me,
Mhm.
right? I didn't get what I wanted. So I'm going to say write a compelling ad copy to use. So it basically is giving me all the content to
Yeah.
take to Facebook. Key features, even gave me the little emojis. Starting from just blank, these homes redefine affordability. Act now as these homes are in high demand. Ready to call this extraordinary place home? Call us today. Here's my information, blah, blah, blah. I might even
You
say,
can,
what hashtags should I use?
the other thing you can do, Brett, is when you're getting copy back, you can say, the above is great, but condense it no more than X 100 characters and it
Yeah.
without using certain keywords. So the more specific you are in the request, the better the content it spits back out.
Yeah. So you might think we're on this call talking about industry update, and which is economics a lot of the time, but this is game changing.
Mhm.
I can't tell you how many times I sit here and go, man, what hashtag should I be using? And
Yeah.
they just gave me 25 hashtags, but actually more than that, right? Like another 5. I
Just
can't
check
tell
the
you,
homework.
huh? It's and this was in 2 minutes, right? So
No. What I'm saying is it's a great start. Just check it before you post it. If you're writing, listing narratives within things, don't rely on it to be perfect and not capable of getting you in trouble.
yeah,
You have
Yeah.
to take
It's
ownership
been known to
of it.
lie and make stuff up.
yes, of course. But I'm not copying and pasting per se.
Right.
I'm using this when I have a writer's block of how to get where I want to go.
Right.
And I think it's just something we should keep talking about because I think it's changing how we're doing business in different ways. So it's kind of fun just to play with something.
Right.
It's brilliant.
Oh, yep. All right. I want to go somewhere else. So
Can I just add one quick thing on this?
yeah, please.
So another thing you can do on this is to say, I have a new construction development in this area of Atlanta, these price points, blah, 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 and these are the features. And you can ask it to create a persona for the buyer for that property. And then ask it to create questions to ask that buyer that would make them compelled to buy it, and then write the ad copy. And it actually kind of goes out a little deeper.
I love it, Mark. This thing, it's hard to teach on this because it can go wherever you want it to go. Yet it's just an encouragement to go play with it. I want to go somewhere else real quick. So, last week, some world events happened.
Mhm.
And I know it's affected people in many different ways, and our thoughts and prayers are with everybody that's affected by it. And Mark, the global economy, the global climate affects economics back in the US, right? So one of these articles says rates reacting to war and the Fed maybe not for long, meaning they actually came down as a result of what's going on the other half of the world. But how should I read this article and make sense of this?
Yeah, I mean, I think what it's basically saying is that, the market reacts to two things: long-term conditions and short-term conditions. And the market reacts to short-term things all the time. So you might see that vary up and down a lot in the short term, but that the long term is actually pretty good. The Fed has made some great statements. Over a bunch of different members of the Fed throughout the country have made a bunch of great statements, basically saying that they're acknowledging that the Fed rate has been raised to a high enough point now that any change in it has an equal risk of making it worse as it does of making it better, which means we're sort of at a turning point.
Yeah. Meaning they're not having to crank as hard to get the thing to move. They've already cranked and the thing is moving, and just give it time.
And now they're waiting to see, how far it goes on its own without another push.
Yeah. This is the statement right here that we've been talking about forever. And this is the second biggest statement. It says inflation has improved considerably, although there's still more work to do, meaning I've gone out on a limb and said, I don't think we're going to see a recovery until inflation gets down closer to 2%. And then they said our current policy stance is restrictive enough to restore 2% inflation, meaning they believe over time we'll get there. It just takes time.
Right.
And that tells us that we are not at the bottom yet, but they believe the policies that will take us to the bottom are already in place. What I hear in that is, I don't think you're going to see 10% interest rates. I think there may be a point in time where there's an 8, or somebody may pay an 8% interest rate. I may be wrong, completely wrong. It's a crystal ball comment, but it just doesn't feel like we got to crank on that interest rate any longer to get us where we want to go.
Correct. Yeah, and the one quote in there, I think he says, it's on your screen right now: absent a stark turn in what I see in the data and hear from contacts, both in one-on-one conversations and in forums like this, I believe that we are at the point where we can hold rates where they are. Look, we did a lot and we did it very fast. So basically it's just saying, like, all of the changes that they made, all of the increases in rates have gotten it to the point where they can now say, okay, we did what we needed to do. Now let's wait and let it take effect, because we all know this stuff takes time. So, but it's moving in the right direction.
Yep. The other thing around this is, let's say we watch on CNN or whatever news channel you prefer, and you're probably going to see a full-fledged invasion going on in the next 7 days. Does that change anything for us on the economic side? I mean,
it can certainly, especially being in the Middle East, it can impact a lot of different things like food and oil and, a lot of commodities. So it'll be interesting to see what effects that has on what prices do here.
Yeah. And we'll just watch it, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's all we can do. The Ukraine situation was the beginning of interest rates going up for us, because everything had heated up, and then that made things worse and made inflation go faster, because certain commodities were at a higher price because they were harder to get. They were more scarce because of what was happening in Ukraine. So, it could possibly have an effect. So we'll see.
There you go. All right. This next article says, we're in the middle of a perfect storm, but clearer skies are ahead. All right. Here, let's break this down. So in here, he's saying the real estate industry has been hit by a perfect storm, a convergence of 5 powerful events. These are the 5 powerful events. A frozen housing market, which I don't agree is, I think that's a generalization. I think in Atlanta, we're not frozen. I
Mhm.
think we're damp, but we're not frozen. And an energized Department of Justice investigation, robust consumer lawsuits, a crash in the prop tech sector, which I wasn't even aware of until I read this article,
Mhm.
and a reverberating scandal at NAR. So let's talk about this.
Yeah.
Is the housing market down for us? Yes. Is it frozen? No.
Mhm.
Department of Justice investigation. This is around the buyer agent commission lawsuits. And a business practice conversation. Can it affect us? I do believe it can. The consumer lawsuits around the buyer agent commission, yeah, they could affect us. Prop tech sector doesn't really affect us. Reverberating scandal at NAR doesn't really affect us per se. So really, we're only dealing with a little bit of an economic recession or housing recession.
Mhm.
And then the potential litigation conversation around, does it change the way we do business around buyer agent commissions? And
Right.
then, I mean, I can comment on NAR, but anyway, let's talk through it. So it's saying residential transactions are down as much as 30 to 60%, Mark.
Mhm.
We looked at this, we're down 22.
Right.
So we're nowhere near what most of the country is probably experiencing, right? So I don't think we're frozen. I think, first of all, I think he is a professional headline writer that
Right.
grabs attention.
Right.
So whatever. Prop tech. Um, During the pandemic, real estate experienced the greatest wave of innovation, new products, applications. Then a bunch of them have folded. I don't think it's changing our daily lives right now.
Mhm.
The
No, but I do
legal
think there are
challenge.
companies like Homeward is a great example of, it
Yeah.
was were born during the pandemic. It solved a need, but they pulled back now because they're not able to have the cash that they had to be able to do what they were doing.
Yeah. And this where like tomorrow we're doing a certification at the Midtown office at 1:30 for iFinder.
Mhm.
It is technically a prop tech platform that allows agents to get cash offers on their listings. We brought it to town a few months ago, and I can't tell you how many conversations with top producers in the last couple of weeks are like, "What is that?" I'm like,
Mm.
outside of dragging you to the class, I can only tell you about it so many
Right.
different ways. But anyway, every agent should at least understand what it is. The legal challenge, obviously, they talk about the tobacco companies in the 60s ignored all the legal challenges. I don't think we're ignoring it. I think we're being proactive.
Mhm.
I believe real estate agents are going to have to choose value versus price and double down on their value prop. And we're going to be all in as a group, leadership on helping our agents do that.
Right.
The federal government, they think NAR is a part of anti-consumer business practices. I don't see
Right.
it that way, but boy, they're coming at it. And then the scandals at NAR, there was a sexual harassment scandal. Here's how I think about it, Mark. I always think about a house and a neighborhood with an HOA, and we can, Hubert, can people still come to that iFinder train? Yes, you need to be there. It's at 1:30. We're going to have information out this afternoon. It was a late ad, but absolutely you should be there. So a house and neighborhood with a HOA, we could probably get on board with agreeing that the HOA protects the value of the house, yet they've got rules that we have a love-hate relationship with.
Mhm.
There's probably a house in the neighborhood that's an outlier that gets sideways with the HOA.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it protects the value of the house. I believe NAR protects the value. NAR is the HOA to our profession,
Right.
meaning they protect our profession.
Right.
Do they have rules we have a love-hate relationship with? Yes. Are there outliers that get sideways with NAR? Yes. But at the end of the day, it protects our profession. And until somebody higher up, like Gary Keller says, we're out, we're all in
Mhm.
on the National Association of Realtors. That's how
Yeah.
I feel about it. I
The
mean,
biggest thing with NAR is they do a lot of stuff for the industry that we don't really see, which is like lobbying in defense of the, real estate industry when things like taxes are proposed and, property tax increases and things like that, tax cuts and how they affect home buyers, things like that.
there you go. So Mark, we covered a lot today, but what are your thoughts?
I mean, I think I kind of feel like this is how it's going to be now, like going forward. I think there's always going to be, because of tech innovation and all of the AI evolving so rapidly, I think we're in an industry that we just have to be used to having our heads on a swivel and at the same time staying focused on what we're doing and not letting every new piece of information distract us from our strategy and goals, and that we stay focused while keeping an eye on what else is happening around us and evolving with the industry or before it, not waiting till afterwards.
Yeah. My fear, just like this eye finder, if you're plugged in, we'll help you get where you want to go. But we don't know how else to engage you outside of email, text, phone, the Pony Express. Like you got to meet us somewhere in the middle. And I promise you, this is one of those moments in time where you need to be plugged in, not plugged out.
Right.
And it's about building your value proposition and taking your professionalism to a whole nother level.
Right.
And we will win that way. And I firmly believe that. So engage.
I would be building into my calendar for 2024 time to spend every week reading articles of what's going on in Inman, coming to the industry update, going to the quarterly stats presentation, the state of the market, so that you can stay informed and stay up to date on what's happening. Because we do a lot of that reading and research for you, but block time on your calendar and make sure that you are spending time keeping an eye on what's happening in the industry, because I think it's just going to continue to be a rapidly evolving landscape for the foreseeable future.
Yeah. And Amy, I promise it's 30 minutes. It's supposed to be 30 minutes. We are in and out on time. And I'll find out why it lasted longer last week, but it's not supposed to. Have a good one.
Bye.